In an age when wonder came wrapped in canvas and sawdust, the circus offered more than spectacle. It revealed the unfamiliar. Not illusions, but lives shaped by nature's rarest hands. Some stood tall in the face of ridicule. Others endured in silence. They weren't born to entertain, yet crowds gathered to gaze. These individuals didn't play roles. They carried them. Their stories didn't seek sympathy. They demanded presence. And long after the lights dimmed, those stories never disappeared. Let's start this countdown with 15. Mirin Dajo, the invulnerable man. Mirin Dajo's body became a question no one could answer. Born in the Netherlands in 1912, he gained attention across Europe by doing what seemed physically impossible, allowing swords and rods to pass straight through his torso. No blood, no reaction, no illusion. Medical professionals watched in disbelief as X-rays confirmed what they couldn't explain. The objects had pierced vital organs, yet he stood unfazed. Dajo believed his purpose was to prove the human body could transcend limits, guided by something far beyond science. Some dismissed him as reckless. Others saw him as divine. But no one could deny the evidence. His demonstrations unsettled even the most skeptical minds. In time, his life ended as strangely as it had unfolded, after swallowing a steel needle during an experiment. His body, even in death, remained a puzzle. Years later, no one has come close to what he did. His story endures, not as a performance, but as something far more difficult to define. 14. Johnny Eck, the half-man. Johnny Eck moved through the world without legs, but no one ever saw him as lacking. Born in Baltimore in 1911, he lived with a condition that left him without a lower torso. It could have limited everything. Instead, he built a life full of movement, creativity, and independence. He painted. He played music. He worked in film, most notably in Todd Browning's Freaks, where he stood out, not for his condition, but for his presence. His hands became his stride. He climbed ropes, flipped onto platforms, and performed acrobatics that demanded strength and nerve. Offstage, he was soft-spoken, witty, and deeply focused. He built miniature trains and lived with dignity, never asking for attention, yet always earning it. People might have come to see a curiosity. What they found was control, elegance, and quiet defiance. He never let anyone finish the sentence for him. He wrote his own. And in the world of circus history, few wrote one as memorable. 13. Martin Lorel, the Owlman. Martin Lorel didn't need sound to hold a room. His act began in stillness and ended in unease. Known as the Owlman, he carried a body that didn't follow normal rules. He could rotate his head 180 degrees, slowly, fully, until his eyes looked directly behind him. Not a mirror trick, not an illusion. The movement came from years of painful training and a rare ability to dislocate vertebrae without damage. Born in Germany, he performed across European circuits before settling in American sideshows. Doctors watched closely, but no explanation felt complete. His performances stayed quiet. The tension built in silence, broken only when the turn began. Some gasped, some looked away, but no one forgot it. Lorel didn't overplay his skill. He let the body speak for itself. And he didn't explain how. He never said why. He was the kind of strangeness that didn't need words. And that silence, more than the act itself, is what lingered after the crowd went home. 12. Alice Elizabeth Doherty, the Werewolf Girl. Alice Doherty was born in 1887, covered in soft golden hair from head to toe. The condition, hypertrichosis lanuginosa, gave her an appearance few could process. Her parents brought her to public shows as a toddler. Audiences called her the Werewolf Girl, but those who met her saw someone entirely different. She didn't bark or play with fantasy. She sat quietly, watching back as strangers leaned in with uneasy fascination. Her posture remained calm. Her eyes held more grace than the words written on her posters. She spent her youth in traveling exhibitions, but off stage, her life stayed rooted in home and family. She never chased fame, never tried to escape it either. The world placed her on display for what she was born with, but she responded with quiet dignity. Her story doesn't echo through circus history because of shock. It stays because she never lets her image be louder than her presence. That made all the difference. 11. Myrtle Corbin, the four-legged girl from Texas. Myrtle Corbin arrived in 1868 with a body unlike any the doctors around her had seen. 4 legs, 2 belonging to a parasitic twin. She lived with a rare condition called dipagus, and from an early age the world insisted on watching. By 13, she'd become a main attraction in traveling shows, introduced as the four-legged girl from Texas. People came expecting strangeness. What they found was composure, where Myrtle didn't shrink under the spotlight. She navigated fame with patience and poise, never letting her condition define how she moved through the world. She married young, had children, and lived a long life far beyond the canvas tents. Her image was printed and passed around, but the real story sat quietly behind it. A woman who chose stability in a world that wanted sensation. Her extra limbs made her unforgettable, but it was her calm, steady presence that gave her space in history and kept it long after the crowds disappeared. 10. Pascal Pinon, the two-headed Mexican. Before the stage came calling, Pascal Pinon worked the rails in Mexico, quiet and anonymous. Then came the growth on his head, a large cyst hard to ignore. Promoters added wax, shaped a false face, and painted it to resemble a second head. They called it a miracle. Well, he became the two-headed Mexican, traveling across North America as audiences stared at something he never asked to carry. The second face never blinked, never spoke, yet followed him everywhere. No one asked how it felt to live beneath a mask designed by others. He kept performing. He kept still. The stories stretched beyond his truth, but he stayed within the role built around him. What began as a condition became a spectacle, and behind it stood a man who once laid rail, now standing before crowds who believed what the poster said. His second face may have been fake, but the burden it left behind, on memory, on identity, was far too real. 9. Pauline Musters, the world's smallest woman. In 1876, in the Netherlands, a girl named Pauline entered the world at just 11 inches. She never grew much taller, yet her presence was anything but small. She moved through theaters and exhibition halls with poise, performing across Europe and the United States. They called her the world's smallest woman, but it wasn't her size that people remembered. She danced with ease, greeted strangers with charm, and carried herself like someone who'd never been told she shouldn't. Her dresses were custom-made, her movements deliberate, her gaze steady. Audiences leaned forward, expecting wonder, and left remembering warmth. Pauline didn't hide from what made her different. She stepped forward with it. At 19, illness ended what had barely begun. Pneumonia and meningitis came suddenly, and her career, like her life, ended far too early. But her legacy didn't rest on numbers. It lived in the way she moved through a world that stared and somehow made it look like she was the one watching. 8. Prince Randian, the human serpent. Born in 1871 in British Guiana, Prince Randian lived without arms or legs, yet moved with more precision than most who watched him. His body, shaped so differently, became his tool, not his burden. He learned to speak 5 languages, write with his mouth, shave with a straight razor, and light his own cigarettes. Barnum brought him onto the stage, but Randian never played the victim. He didn't perform for sympathy. Every action was steady, every gesture sharp with intent. He wore a custom suit, curled on the floor, and moved like a serpent, fluid, unhurried, exact. Audiences didn't quite know how to feel. He didn't ask them to feel anything. He simply existed, capable, quiet, aware. What in the film Freaks, he needed no direction. What he brought was already whole. The body others stared at with confusion, he had already mastered. His performance wasn't a transformation, it was a revelation. Not in what he lacked, but in what he never needed. 7. Chang and Eng Bunker, the original conjoined twins. Born in Siam in 1811, Chang and Eng Bunker entered the world joined at the chest. They shared a liver, a torso, and a lifetime. The world didn't know what to make of them. They crossed oceans, settled in America, and became known simply as the Siamese twins. For years they performed together, not as an act built on novelty, but as two men who knew how to live without separation. They married sisters, raised over 20 children, and owned land in North Carolina. Doctors offered surgeries. They declined. When what they shared wasn't a flaw to fix, it was a life they knew how to manage. They argued like brothers, lived in two homes, and rotated between them every few days. In 1874, one died. The other followed soon after. Their names became shorthand for conjoined lives, but their story was never a metaphor. It was real, ordinary, and complex. Two people, one body, in a bond that refused to be split. 6. Felix, the Elastic Man. Born in Wisconsin in 1858, Felix lived in skin that didn't hold firm. It stretched. It folded. His arms twisted backward, his joints bent in impossible ways. The world called him the Elastic Man, but what he did wasn't performance. It was demonstration. Likely born with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, his body moved past its limits without damage. He didn't rush his act. He moved with slow intent, drawing eyes not through drama, but through control. In circuses, inside tents, on museum stages, he folded himself like paper, stretched his skin like cloth. There was no costume, no story painted around him. He stood still, moved deliberately, and let others feel whatever they would. Some cringed, some watched too long, but everyone remembered. He wasn't trying to disturb. He wasn't there to explain. His body said what words couldn't. It existed far outside what most believed was possible, and that quiet disbelief that stayed longer than any applause ever did. 5. Schlitzie, the star of freaks. In 1901, Schlitzie was born with microcephaly, a condition that altered his skull size and slowed his development. But what stayed untouched was his energy, pure, open, and bright. He wore dresses on stage, laughed without hesitation, clapped in rhythm, and moved like joy itself. He didn't need a script. His presence was enough. Audiences leaned in, unsure at first, then softened by the way he lit up a room. He spent years performing in traveling sideshows, earning affection everywhere he went. When he appeared in the 1932 film Freaks, that same warmth spilled onto the screen. He didn't act. He simply was. People remembered the laugh, the tilted head, the small frame that carried something bigger than most could name. Schlitzie didn't challenge the stage. He changed it. Without demanding anything, he stayed in people's memory long after the curtain fell. Not for how he looked, but for the way he made something strange feel suddenly familiar. 4. General Tom Thumb, the Little Big Talent. Charles Stratton was born in 1838 and remained small all his life, barely reaching 2 feet tall. But the world he created for himself reached farther than most. Discovered by P.T. Barnum at the age of 4, he stepped onto the stage as General Tom Thumb and quickly became more than a headline. He didn't just stand there. He performed, singing, dancing, delivering speeches, impersonating royalty and generals with humor and control. People expected something unusual. What they got was precision. He toured across continents, met monarchs, and walked through rooms others only saw in paintings. His image was printed on souvenirs, yet it never outshone the man behind it. He wasn't driven by fame, he shaped it. When the shows ended, he lived quietly, far from the glare he once mastered. Tom Thumb remains remembered not because he was small, but because he knew exactly how to fill a room without needing to raise his voice or his height. In Edward Mordrake, the man with two faces. Stories of Edward Mordrake still pass through sideshow history like a shadow. Said to be a 19th century English nobleman, he was born with a second face at the back of his head. Not one that spoke openly or showed expression, but one that stared, silent and unnerving. According to the tale, it whispered at night, cruel, constant, and impossible to silence. He sought help. Doctors refused. Priests offered no solution. Alone with a face he couldn't see and words he couldn't escape, Edward took his life. No photos exist, no confirmed autopsy. Still, the story endures. Whether truth or legend, it found its place not because of spectacle, but because of what it suggests, that torment isn't always loud and horror isn't always visible. Edward became more than a curiosity. He became a symbol of something unseen yet deeply felt. Real or not, his name remains attached to the weight of a life shaped by something that refused to leave. 2. Minnie Woolsey, the Bird Girl. Minnie Woolsey was born in Georgia in 1880 with a condition known as Virchow-Seckel syndrome. Her features, narrow skull, pointed nose, thin frame, set her apart from the beginning. But where others expected silence, Minnie moved with expression. On stage, she became Cuckoo the Bird Girl, dressed in feathers and tiaras, flapping her arms in wide skipping arcs. There was no script. Her act didn't follow the rules. She danced in her own time, found rhythm in movements no one taught her. She toured with sideshows and later appeared in Freaks, a film where performers like her weren't hidden, they stood at the center. Minnie never offered commentary on the life built around her. She danced. She stayed. People watched with uncertainty, but her energy left something behind. Her movements, though playful, carried weight. She wasn't trying to become anyone else. She stayed within what the world gave her and found a way to fill it. Strange to some, unforgettable to everyone else. 1. Frank Lentini, the three-legged man. Frank Lentini was born in Sicily in 1889 with 3 legs and 4 feet. His body joined to a parasitic twin that never separated. At 8 years old, his family moved to America. He joined the circus not long after. What could have become a reason to hide became the centerpiece of a career built on strength, humor, and ease. He jumped rope, kicked soccer balls, told jokes about needing extra shoes. But the extra leg never defined the act. It framed it. What people saw stayed with them, but what made them return was his grace. Frank married, raised children, and toured for over 40 years. He didn't ask for sympathy. He didn't avoid questions. He walked into the world and made it look easy. His story didn't end in tragedy or disappear into footnotes. It stood, 3 legs grounded on one life. Not exaggerated, not diminished, just lived fully and seen by those willing to look beyond the outline. We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. We'll catch you later.